In the name of self-defense, I just want to tell you. Cola Boy says. Cola Boy says. All around the world. All the boys and girls. Yo, it's Cola Boy, aka the kid born in space, aka the disabled disco innovator, aka so pop it, lock it, drop it, the instant classic generator. This is what I say. Cola Boy says. Cola Boy says. All around the world. All the boys and girls. Cause we gotta stay together, that's what's right. With supremacy and empire, left and right. But we gonna march on that big power structure so we can liberate from all sides. Cola Boy says. Cola Boy says. All around the world. All the boys and girls. You can do it. We can do it. We gonna march. Take back what's ours. This oppression, it has gone too far. If I tell you that you have the power, the people are ready. Let's take down these cowards.
It's that time. It is.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Jacan.
Saturday, right?
Hey Jacan, I got a question for you. Do you know how to change your username on Discord?
Do you want me to change it again?
Yeah, because I
Listen,
forgot
I'm
to
gonna-
tell you to do that.
Listen, I'm gonna say
'Cause you
something.
gotta do that.
Right now?
I forgot the plan.
Yes, right now.
What do you mean you forgot the plan?
Damn. That's what I have to do with guys, by the way.
Welcome to the show. It's Wednesday.
What
We're
I
back.
Jenny?
Something between B and M. It has to start with.
Oh, I'm in Jacan's spot.
That's how we get the magic tricks to work on the show.
You are Jacan.
So now all the name tags are correct.
Carlos, will you do me a favor?
No.
Go
We
fuck
See,
yourself.
that's what successful people do. They know when to say no. That's what I learned this week.
It's true. Trump always gets people to say yes. That's why he's successful.
Is that how that works?
It's true.
Listen,
So since no one was also paying attention, we have a cold open video. So let's play that first, and then we'll.
This was more
we'll come back to
important.
it. Well, you should have remembered.
yeah, I completely forgot.
Let's run it and let's come back. And that is the halls of culture. There you have it.
The
That is,
culmination
what-
of Americanism.
That is what the elites are doing during this pandemic.
Yep. Having Vanilla
was
Ice,
just thinking
arguably the greatest rapper ever, to perform at. That's Trump's Mar-a-Lago party, his New Year's party. They're having a blast.
While
The greatest white rapper to all white
The
people.
ugliest group of
I mean, to
motherfuckers
all
I've
rich
ever
white
seen.
people.
while our grandparents
Pablo said it
and
best.
fellow farm workers are dying, cold and alone, you have the rich elites at Mar-a-Lago listening to garbage colonizer music. And yes, Pablo did put it best. Ugliest group of motherfuckers I've ever seen in my life. And also, Jake and I think Carlos muted it because of DMCA reasons, because that's copyrighted music. That's why I think that's what
Yeah,
But I
that's
mean,
why.
they're doing like a cover version, so hopefully they don't pick it up.
I don't know. They've been.
But if we get banned, guys,
they've been real trigger happy with that copyright on YouTube.
Oh,
They sure have.
great. Well, either way, there you go.
Yeah. I think we got the point across.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not that necessary. You just yeah, pretty much every we got a big who's who there of all our favorite.
Did I see
elites.
Giuliani in there? Was I
Yeah,
tripping?
he was there
Yeah.
early. He was in the
Yeah,
early
I
part.
saw Giuliani there.
Who had COVID? I don't know if
Fucking-
Eric Trump or he had COVID too. So I think one of the sons got COVID at some point also. So there's plenty of ex-COVIDites there, all kinds of good stuff. Any thoughts before we just roll into the show? We have quite a bit, so
now let's jump into it. So I guess I'll open up the show. We have this little headline I want to read from Twitter from AVC. And it's something I kind of just wanted to bring up because we've talked about this a couple times on the show before. From ABC, there are 787,000 new unemployment claims filed in 1 week, according to the U.S. Labor Department. So just as we talked about before, and this is kind of just something I wanted to update and give you guys raw numbers for, just as we talked about before, with the period ending from the last stimulus ending in January, and then the new stimulus not taking effect until the spring or whatever. This is what we get. We see huge jumps in unemployment claims. And yeah, a lot of these people are gonna have to continue to wait for their much needed money. A lot of people won't get it. A lot of people won't make it back on unemployment, and it's disgusting and then completely a result of our government not taking care of our needs as citizens who are hurting during this pandemic. And that's just what I wanted to briefly bring up. It wasn't anything huge to touch on, but I mean, it is huge to touch on. It's a lot of people, but I mean, I didn't have anything big to talk about for this particular.
Yeah, 787,000 new unemployment.
Yeah, almost
I mean,
almost three quarters of a million people.
Right. So of course this is a huge deal.
Yeah, and it's it's completely unnecessary.
yeah, and given that too, we'd think there'd be some response, or we'd spend money on people or new unemployment programs, etc. But not only did we see a delaying of new unemployment since Trump vetoed the bill, but now we didn't get anything out of that, whether it be $2,000 or a 4 vote on Medicare for all, as was determined today, because everyone voted for Nancy Pelosi once more to be the Speaker of the House. So, you have things like this happening. Meanwhile, halls of Congress and the Senate, they're doing nothing to help people.
Yeah.
Carlos, do you want to pull up the next piece? Because I think these two kind of dovetail together.
Yeah, I found this one thanks to Graham Elwood. I saw it something that he had on the timeline. This is a little old article from a World Socialist website. It's a very good outlet. They've been around for a long time, almost as long as the internet has existed. So they're a dedicated group of socialists dedicated to spreading the message and the cause and the effects and how people can implement and see the progress that socialism can help them bring. And it's a public utility, more or less, is what it was set out to be. But they have all kinds of news articles on there and such, and so here in this one, so speaking of that floor vote for Nancy Pelosi, many of our progressive legislators who we all look up to for policy and to actually do a better job representing us than the actual corporatists that we see blatantly just taking campaign finances, all kinds of things, corruption, bribery, just whatever it takes. But these progressives who we've started electing within the past several years, it's all supposed to be different. Like, they're supposed to be the real grassroots people who we can count and rely on when we need them to. But I mean, this pandemic has gone on for a year now, and ever since Bernie dropped out of the presidential race, it feels like his movement has pretty much died. Like, there wasn't a real big, like, push to actually get Biden to do anything, and it felt like they spent the whole election just dog-hounding Trump, like we've all kind of known and seen before. So it felt like the whole election didn't even really bring anything new, which is just standard with establishment politics.
Bong, bing, bing, bing.
Oh, thanks for the follow, BioHazy88.
Hey, BioHazy.
Nice
Thank
to
you for the
see
follow.
some new people in the chat all the time watching the show. It's cool to see.
Hope you enjoyed Ronald Reagan
I'll
getting
get into
punched.
this article real quick. This is an old piece that they put out back in June when AOC won the primary, actually, in those midterm elections, if you remember, against Joe Crowley. So I know a lot of people like AOC, and I understand that, because she really is better than most politicians in terms of the policies that she pushes for. But unfortunately, as we see with a lot of these younger politicians, like what they call like the freshmen, so I mean, like it's kind of a joke how
Even
they
those
even like
wording,
they tier
yeah.
this stuff like it's high school.
Yeah.
Like you got the freshman politicians, then you got the seniors, the
jocks.
the ones who have been in there for a real long time, and
It's all this insider club mentality.
Yeah.
But it's the whole thing is when you look at the results of what they're achieving, it's disgraceful. But somehow it's pushed back one way or the other, blamed on one side of the aisle, and no one seems to want to take any fault, and everyone acts like, oh, we're getting the best concessions out. But there very, very rarely is actual pushback from the people on their politicians. And it usually only comes in forms so extreme and so rare that hardly anything ever happens. So I guess I'll just kind of get into this article. So it's a little flash from the past here. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, defeated the fourth-ranking member of the Democratic leadership of the House of Representatives, Congressman Joseph Crowley, in Tuesday's primary election in the 14th Congressional District of New York. So I'm going to skip around here because I've already kind of wasted a little bit of time. So I just kind of want to get to some of the interesting points of this article that I thought were a bit enlightening about AOC, given the recent events of the past few months of just the election of Joe Biden, the fallout from that and even the lead up of just not asking anything of him, really. And now that everyone is like recognizing that Joe Biden's going to be elected, and they're asking, all right, what's going to happen now? And there's almost nothing. So it's more or less just like what we said from Trump. There is no real plan. They're not guaranteeing people anything that they can actually count on. And what's the excuse? Oh, the other side of the aisle is just going to shut it down. So we gotta compromise to them what they want. I mean, it's like, what's the point of winning an election if you're not even going to stand on a solid principle, fight and argue for it, and like really take it to the end, And then when the cards are all laid out on the table, like, we actually see what happens.
I think that's really the issue here, though, is that, and that's why these candidates we love, because before they came in, they had this outsider appeal, and that was the whole point: is we're going to come from the outside. They're going to use their power in the halls of Congress, but the whole point is to be an outlet for us, the people. But once they're in, they start getting this, whether it's money or whether it's, other means, they get this notion that they can work inside somehow within the establishment. They can capitulate to the establishment, that their own personal ability to manipulate and do things is what's important rather than working on behalf of the American people. And that's how you see people like AOC and stuff not only not get anything as far as like a 4 vote for Medicare for all, but also the things that they claim they're going to get by working on the inside, like committee appointments. She also failed to get appointed to one of those, got snubbed by Nancy Pelosi just a month ago maybe.
Over someone who threatened to not vote for her.
Yep.
So
they're not oblivious. I don't think they're oblivious to that.
Not at all.
Strategy.
It's just that, well, I guess the kindest interpretation you can take from AOC is that whatever she did ask of Nancy Pelosi has already been done, and it's already guaranteed AOC's vote for her. So it just means
Right.
AOC's not really asking
Didn't ask
for
enough.
much.
Yeah. That's the best interpretation you can have, yeah. Or the kindest, rather. Yeah.
Or you just say she doesn't really care and she was going to support Pelosi no matter what. Which is kind of what it seems like.
Yeah. I think the weirdest thing for me... Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. Maybe we can...
Alright, so...
Or you want to read from this one?
Yeah, let me see where it was here. So, kind of talks about how Crowley spent way too much money on this election. But it also notes out how here that the district has 700,000 people, and Crowley had only gotten 11,000 votes. So, it shows how little people actually care about this stuff, because they recognize that it's not actually doing anything for them, even though it's their best bet. If they actually like take control of the system. And that's unfortunately like what we look for in these kinds of candidates, is the kind of promises they make. Like it says in here, how
a lot of them don't hold up to their promises, and that's an issue.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. They lose that mentality that their job is to go there and fight the Democrats and the people that they're in the party with. They go there thinking they can work along, and somehow they can work their way through the system, but it's not possible. It's not particular to any one individual either. It's not AOC is not some special, subversive politician or something. The problem is the approach of working within the two-party system is broken. We already knew this before anyway. This is the lesson we should have took at the very least from Bernie getting knocked out, and we haven't.
Alright, so here's the part I wanted to mention, which I thought was the most interesting, because it's part of a conception that we all have of AOC. So I'll read this here. The widely circulated campaign video, narrated by the candidate, falsely presents her as a typical young woman of the working class for whom, quote, going into politics wasn't the plan, quote, which we all remember her saying in some of those ads when she first ran. Actually, Ocasio-Cortez was groomed for a career in Democratic Party politics. As soon as she graduated from Boston University, she was recruited to work in the office of Massachusetts Senator Edward Kennedy. Then, after years of running a business startup in the Bronx, she became a full-time organizer for the Sanders presidential campaign, laying the groundwork for her successful run for a congressional seat. So, even though, she may have worked with Bernie's campaign, there were those ins early on, getting to see what the system was really like, working for some of those people. And yeah, if you remember with the Bernie campaign, one of their big primary points was like what do you call, like, organizing, like, to get out the vote, like getting people on the ground, like knocking door to door. And if you remember, like, what did AOC do? She knocked on every door in her district. So just that alone is an easy strategy to at least get people. But unfortunately, with the COVID pandemic and everything, and I mean, you got to admit that even they've said before, you're lucky if you get like 1 in 10 people, 1 in 20 people to even open their door for you. But because that's just the kind of culture and society that's been bred by these people. It's just it's one where you don't even want to really hear from someone, because they're perceived as a bigger threat to you than anything else. It's it's like some old Carlin joke where it's like the world just keeps feeling smaller and smaller every day. But I mean, we gotta try to look past that as much as we can. Be willing to reach out and try to understand people, because that's the only way we can really make progress. But
Communication.
what I wanted to kind of get out of this is that, yeah, it shows that AOC's been a part of the system for much longer than we thought. Like,
Yeah.
she wasn't just some waitress who got interested in politics. No, she's fairly well educated, been a part of a system for a long enough time that she understands how it works, supported a candidate for office who had a very large following and political campaign, and then managed to build off that momentum to a seat win.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's not like a real kind of grassroots from nothing effort that you see a lot of these people have to actually do, which it is a good thing, I'll say, that people are starting to strategize and get more boots on the ground after Bernie's campaign. Because I think he kind of brought that more like rural approach to politics.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Go to your neighbor, talk to your neighbor kind of thing.
That's the kind of thing you could get away with more in Vermont, especially in the time when he ran earlier in his career. But,
well, that was probably his appeal back then, because it was, Vermont was fairly Republican, conservative back then. But his appeal, was every man's appeal, neighbor to neighbor. Yeah, this does change my perception too, though. Like, you could see how it cultivated that insider mentality, because she's been,
Which also, reminded me of some of those comments she made about when John McCain passed away, when, everyone was just, every normal person I can remember was pretty much just talking about what John McCain did in one way or another. I mean, if you're more well off, you're probably talking about some of the nicer things he did. And if you happen to be subject to some of the worst end of the things he passed, you're probably criticizing him. But I mean, that's how class politics is, and a lot of people don't even realize it.
Do you remember what she said exactly, or what her comments was on?
It was something about, I think that was I think is what made me kind of raise an eyebrow, because she was praising him as if like she had been around like in politics, like in office almost during like his career.
Right.
Which, when I read this, kind of made me draw that connection that she'd met those people.
Right. She had that political awareness. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just the insider mentality.
It was well versed.
Yeah. And that's the thing we have to fight, is that insider mentality, because it ultimately destroys our ability to fight for any change.
Yeah. There was also some more good things in that article, but I kind of realized we're kind of pushing it a little on time, so I'm just going to have it in the description as always on the YouTube video, so you guys can check out the rest of it. There's also some other good stuff on the World Socialist website, so it's definitely worth the stay.
Oh yeah, and let's keep with this house vote conversation and pull up this next video, and we'll just play it, and so we can finish off this conversation.
I used to be one of those like progressive bloggers who always thought, oh, they just need more spine.
Exactly.
They really want to do good things, but they're just afraid. That whole like Daily Kos like mythology for children. And I remember what they used to do is, there'd be like some bill, and I would get really excited. It would be like to ban or to guarantee habeas corpus for war on terror suspects, so they get at least one crack at a court before they're like thrown into prison for 3 decades. And this is something the Democrats were campaigning on and were denouncing. And every single time there'd be a bill like that, it would always fail by 2 or 3 votes because of Democratic defections. But they would always make sure that the defections rotated. So you could never focus on any one who was terrible. They kept just rotating it. So it was like that kind of game when you're playing with a kid with, you have that hammer and the things pop up and you have to smash them, but you can never actually win because they just keep popping up.
Whack-a-mole.
And I call it villain rotation. That's, it's
Villain
whack-a-mole.
rotation, yeah.
They're experts at that. The Democrats are expert at denying their voters what they pretend they want to give them,
Right.
and then pretending that they're really upset by it.
So yeah, I think that's a
funny
speculation. Well, it's a speculation I have of kind of what happened today. 'Cause I was watching the House vote, and as they came in, you had some of the people with more cred among progressives right now, especially among the force to vote issue, because they've made statements saying they're going to withhold their vote against Pelosi. And we've covered that being Jamal Bowman, etc. Jamal Bowman, right off the bat, voted for Nancy Pelosi. Rashida Tlaib on the first run-through voted for Nancy Pelosi. The only 3 to abstain in the first time, and they all ended up voting for Nancy Pelosi, was AOC, Cori Bush, and Barbara Lee. The only progressives. There was like a couple Republicans, I think, that abstained also. But point is, like, AOC's been getting a lot of the fire right now for not pushing this issue. And right now she does an abstain vote so that she gets some kind of cred, while the rest of everyone else just folds in, gives their votes to Pelosi. And she still ends up voting for Pelosi too anyway. So it's like they distilled this script from the Dems to try to deflect fire so that they don't actually have to be held accountable. And yeah, it's shitty. And it's just gross. We can pull up the last piece, because I think this kind of caps off this whole conversation, because we started with, we have massive unemployment, and we talk about all the time, obviously COVID is ripping through the country. They failed to get through a House Medicare for all vote by withholding their votes. And meanwhile, while they do that, this happened on Friday. Congress overrides Trump's veto for the first time on major military bill. After voting Friday afternoon, the Senate adjourned, effectively killing any hope of passing an increase to distribute $2,000 checks. So yeah, they also completely snubbed the $2,000 checks that they were going to send out to people. That went through the House, that passed through the House. But meanwhile, they also just sent through this disgusting military bill that gives more money to our military industrial complex.
Okay, so it's definitely that we're not getting the 2,000. That's like a definite.
Yeah, it's pretty much a definite, because even the version McConnell was offering on the Senate floor, which was not the bill that was passed to the House, which was his version of the bill that had some other sketchy shit in it. Even that was not going to come to a vote. So they already voted to override Trump's veto, so the military bill is already going through. So we're already going to spend money.
Putting in military more money.
Hundreds of billions of dollars.
So dumb.
While 787,000 people have filed new unemployment claims.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
But there's just more other things that are way more important than just our military.
Unemployment.
What about the lives of the American people that, so like the people who I guess the head people that run the country.
The people they have to extract money
military, from? The people who live in their country. I just can't fathom that.
Yeah, well, it's not like we're spending, because most of this military budget and also in the stimulus bills is all going towards foreign aid, but as we all know, that's to attack other countries, not actually help them.
What do you mean? It's to help them attack other countries.
Yeah, well, like Israel, yeah. In Israel.
Biohazy in chat says endless funds for weapons of mass destruction, no government budget or for public necessities. He's completely right. We can put so much money into our military just to create chaos, and we don't get any money for the public, the American people who live here. and who actually need it. So
Yep.
I find it dumb that they would choose to.
They'd rather seek
Just-
endless profit and just destruction than
Mhm.
helping out normal people, and they show that more and more every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just goes to show where their mindset, where their heads are, and it's not in the right place.
Yeah. Do we want to go to our first break here so we can get out this middle chunk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Alrighty.
Thank you everybody for watching. We'll be back after the song.
We'll be right back after the song, and I hope you all hope you guys enjoy it. And we're back.
We're back. What's good, y'all?
That was Brighter Days by Omega Nova. Go check them out.
Song.
Thank you for guys for all the follows as well. Remember, if you have an Amazon account or an Amazon Prime account, make sure you can link it to your Twitch, and you can follow us with Twitch Prime. We would really appreciate it. You don't have to if you don't want to, but if you have it and you want to spread the joy, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hope everybody got their stretch in as well.
Yeah, water.
You guys want to hop back into it?
Yeah, let's start with this first video here, and I think this is good because our whole last block was a little Debbie Downer, a little depressing. So we'll kind of start with good news here, and I'll just let the video play out. Let him tell it. This is Lee Camp. He does good work. Check his stuff out. And yeah, let's just play the video.
Bing, bing, hey everybody, welcome to Moment of Clarity, breaking news. I'm going to start out with some good news about activists fighting off police at an eviction at a homeless encampment, fighting off this fucking fascist force that needs to, destroy homeless people's lives. Because really, let's face it, the people without houses, they have it too easy. They've just been living high on the hog, as I said on Redacted Tonight last week. They have just been, honestly, you ever see someone homeless? They're just having a blast. It's about time we put a stop to this, okay? How long are they going to get to live it up while we have to suffer? So luckily, we have our police ready to go in there and really, really make their lives troublesome, because they just have it too easy. I covered the destruction of houses being built for the homeless in Las Vegas. Now we're jumping over to Santa Cruz. This is happening down in Santa Cruz, but this is happening across the nation. That's why I feel like these individual things are worth talking about, because whatever city you're in, this shit's going down, okay? I mean, some are better than others, but it's fucking happening everywhere. So these are really just samples of what's going on across America. This is happening in Santa Cruz. It says Santa Cruz activists halt the homeless camp eviction, and I'm going to go through a little bit of the details. But there's been sweeps in Santa Cruz to destroy homeless encampments, and not it's not like they walk in and they give people housing and they show them where they can go. They just go in there and just destroy things and kick them out. But this time around, in this latest siege in Santa Cruz at San Lorenzo Park, community members successfully blocked the city of Santa Cruz from implementing phase 2 of their holiday eviction. I love how they have it fucking phased out like it's a goddamn military raid. Within phase 2, that's when we dump out the porta potties and we really get them. Phase 2 of their holiday eviction of over 100 unhoused people in San Lorenzo Park. 100. This affects 100 people, and they're like, fuck it, just go in there, because like I said at the beginning, they have it too easy. So let's see if we can destroy their lives a little more. Santa Cruz County Health Director Dr. Gail Newell stated that she was not advised about it and would have advised against the sweep in the time of a pandemic. So the CDC has said that there should not be evictions right now, both of people in houses and obviously of homeless populations as well. And these cities are ignoring that, or ignoring what the CDC says. But even if there weren't a pandemic, how about it's just fucked up to begin with? How about that? But yeah, right now it's obviously even worse. So these protesters succeeded in stopping this latest eviction, but only for a week. And they did it through the courts. They went into the courts. They succeeded to in getting the courts to halt the attack on the homeless. The police in this moment, and in many moments, they act as the fascist fist of the corporate state. The corporate state is ruling over these things, destroying people's lives, extracting the wealth and the labor out of people, and they send the cops in to enforce that shit. to make sure that people aren't being homeless successfully, or aren't getting lazy in their homelessness because they're sitting in a park where these people have gathered. And let's talk for a second. Why are these people there? Are they there because it just looks like so much fun to chill in that park? Is that why they're? No, they're there because this system has fucking chewed them up and spit them out and not given them the safety net they deserve. That's why they're there. They're not there because it's just a great time to not know where you can go to the bathroom, or to be cold every night, or to wonder where you'll get food the following day. They're not there because it's just fucking loads of fun. And so it's like, even if this weren't a pandemic, these cops should not be sent in there to do this shit. They should then, obviously, if cops actually stood and thought about what is the moral thing to do, they should refuse their orders to go in there and do this. But that rarely happens. Rarely do police actually stand up for what's moral. Even, depending on what their orders are, they tend to, not depending on, they tend to follow the orders no matter what. And so here is so they stopped him. Now, that didn't stop the cops from arresting various people at various moments. Maybe it was phase one where more people got arrested in this raid on this homeless camp. One of the people who was arrested emailed me, Keith McHenry. He was arrested in blocking the police from the initial attempts to evict everyone. And he is one of the founders of Food Not Bombs, which you've probably heard me talk about before. Food Not Bombs, an impressive organization that does a lot of good work, both protecting the homeless and getting food to people. I believe not bombs. Food not bombs. This time, they're working on a new version next year called Food Some Bombs. We'll give you a little bit of bombs if you just eat our food. That's what I've heard, but they don't have that yet. So right now it's Food Not Bombs. And he was arrested. So then they took it to court and succeeded in getting the courts to halt this for 1 week. Right now it's just 1 week. It's not like this thing is over. These people who are houseless, as is the preferred term now, even though I often say homeless because I'm like a battleship. It takes me a long time to turn around. Medical debt is the number one cause of bankruptcy in this country, in America. So what happens when people go bankrupt? Many of them end up homeless. Many people lose their jobs and, go bankrupt, lose their health care. Medical debt has caused many people to be homeless. And of course, the homeless also don't have health care. They're able to get some sorts of free healthcare because they're completely out of money and homeless, but not high quality. They're not going to be treated for some long-term illness. They get emergency care, which is why you have so many people in this country waiting until it gets to the point of emergency care to go get some, because they know that they can't afford to go in and say, hey, my stomach's been hurting me for about 2.5 years. I'm wondering if that's something. I'm wondering if that's an issue. They don't do that. They wait till they're about collapsing, and then they're brought to the emergency room because they fear the bills they'll get. So, there's obviously a connection between the homelessness and medical debt. And it's all the more darkly hilarious that this comes at a time while Congress is debating whether to give everybody making under $75,000 a year $600 or $2,000. And, Trump obviously is
so we can
calling for the 2,000, but he's not doing it because he.
And I'd recommend.
Brings up some great points.
Oh, yeah. And later on in the video, there's a point where they play the actual police that came in, and they were given orders to just clear people out. And they're talking to the cops, and the cops just have utter disdain for the people there. You can hear it.
Well, I was gonna say, I don't know if he talked about it or if I just missed it. Did he mention why they wanted to evict all those the homeless there at the camp?
I don't know if they were stating the city was, because it was the city doing it. I don't know if they were stating it was like a health concern or whether it was like a public indecency thing, because that's what they do in New York all the time.
Like,
and I even know
Mayor Bloomberg.
Yeah.
There's
Mayor
even like
Bloomberg.
homeless. Like, what are they doing now? They're like putting spikes in the spots where they're like their camp is, or like where they're sleeping like under a bridge or something.
It literally
Right
makes
on the
America
benches.
just look like
Just
a big
so
death
that they don't-
trap.
Yeah, it's almost like making them like we do that with birds. We put like little spikes up on those like
Yeah.
light poles, right? It's kind of like what they're humans, dude.
How callous can we be? Yeah. There are people already on the edge, pushed on the outside, and we're just pushing them further.
Right,
You
and
want-
they're only
wait, hold
in that
on.
situation because
Wait, I thought of
of
something.
the state of America.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen in like some works of fiction how like especially in video games would be like the enemy's like final boss like lair or whatever, a lot of spikes everywhere all over the place. You think maybe that's why? Because they don't want the homeless showing up there sleeping
Yeah.
all over the place.
Yeah, Mario's or Bowser is.
Yeah, Bowser don't want no
anti-homeless.
one,
Yeah.
don't want no one sleeping around that castle.
They're not evicting them to go somewhere. They're just kind of
No, that's the whole point. They're not
letting them
providing
be on their
anything.
own.
No,
They're not
just,
providing
They're
any.
just going after him. They're hounding after
If
him.
anything, at that camp, they were, that was. I know they're homeless, but that was like their home.
That was it. That's the edge.
Yeah, that's all they had. And then they evict them, and where do they go now? Now they're going to be really roaming the streets, and now you have an even bigger problem if that was their main concern.
And something else that not too recently happened on Thanksgiving Eve. I forget where exactly, but there were these houses that were bought by the state to be used to expand their rail system or whatever. It's here in California. I forget where. Something by the bay ish. But on Thanksgiving Eve, they did a raid because these houses were bought up by the state, so they're empty, just unused houses. And then obviously homeless people just moved into these houses were in communities, and these homeless people moved into these houses and were just living in them, so they have shelter. And the state obviously brought in police and removed them all from the home on Thanksgiving Eve. And witness reports from the people that lived in that community where the houses were that the homeless people were I guess squatting, you can say. They said that they were never a nuisance, that they enjoy their presence in the community, etc., etc. So yeah,
They weren't causing a ruckus. They weren't causing any.
Yeah, and I think this whole conversation speaks so much louder to what the actual issue of that is the homelessness crisis. It's like the homelessness crisis exists solely as as a result of mismanagement of resources and the privatization of things like the housing market, which is an inelastic resource that everybody needs to survive. You can't live a decent life in this world unless you have a home. I mean, obviously, if you want to be like a nomad style person, that's fine. But at the base level, you should at least be offered you should be offered shelter. And so that speaks to the higher system, which is obviously capitalism and the creation of this market that doesn't need to be a market at all. No private entity should be in charge of who deserves to get a home and who doesn't. And and something else, there's more houses than people, man. There's more empty homes than there. I want to say it's 2 or 3 times the homeless population. There's just empty homes.
And that's just now. We don't have to build.
Yeah,
anything.
exactly. We literally do not have to build any homes, and we can make sure double or triple the homelessness population is completely taken care of. But we don't do that.
Accessible.
But we don't do that because people care about profit more. The exact same thing with food.
Everybody wonder why there's so many houses everywhere.
Every single person could eat fine every single day, but we refuse to do that because there's no profit, and that is capitalism. There's potato mountains and there's milk rivers because of capitalism. So, half of all the food produced is like thrown out, I think is the number. It's like, we're literally wasting precious resources, all because it's not profitable to just distribute them at no cost or at low cost.
And where we're not wasting them, we're just using them to fund things like the police to further, attack our homeless population, or
which is a waste. Because
yeah, but it is a purposeful waste though. They're wasting it, but they're not wasting it on some unconscious mind, for sure. They're just destroying resources, yes, wasting for sure. But they're doing it with full intent, is
of
the
course,
worst part.
because you arrest homeless people and then make them slaves. You make them work for
You
you
push
make them work
them
for
far
slave
to the
wages.
edge. Yep.
Yeah,
and
You
I
criminalize
think
the
that's the whole point of
lifestyle.
this.
And a lot of them will literally do anything for a buck, right? And pushing them to that edge to make them do something they don't really want to do, but they'll do because
They'll
they
get
need
more
the money.
desperate. Yeah.
They'll do it. And
yeah.
So why do you think crimes have been spiking as poverty rises, homelessness rises, just general desperation, even amongst people who do have things?
Well, they can't be connected. What?
Never.
No,
connected,
absolutely,
never
but
related.
absolutely not. But you know, single parent households have everything to do with like crime rates or something.
Yeah.
Wait,
I mean,
so
I was gonna
the things
mention-
we don't have are responsible for everything that's wrong with our society. Very interesting.
It's like the people that, like, while there's like mass protests and shit happening right now, they're like, this is what Bernie's America would look like. But
When it's like
this is Trump's the president right now. What are you talking about, homie?
Or you all those memes where it's like, this is what socialism does. And it's like the torn down homes, but it's like it's not, and it's right next to like it's right next to like the golf course or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like literally like a super like a picture of what's happening right now in capitalism.
Yeah, the picture of Florida. You're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
This would be socialism. Bernie Sanders,
Florida is basically the new Brazil.
Yeah.
They have the extreme poverty and the extreme wealth.
Mass amounts of COVID too.
Oh, so
all their elected leaders have COVID.
Like Brazil.
Yeah, like Brazil. Yeah.
You know, you know, Bolsonaro's kind of right. Because what if he turned into an alligator? Don't you remember him saying that? He said he won't take the vaccine because he thinks he's going to turn into an alligator.
His game plan was to get COVID as many times as he can.
He actually said that. Those were real words.
Oh, yeah.
I don't doubt that he would say something like that.
Hey, Bolsonaro.
Sounds like Bolsonaro has some very shitty Portuguese.
Yeah. But I think this story was relevant because, Ian, you got to it there. Like, it's all about pushing people to the outside so that you could further exploit them and further just bend the rules to capital. And happening right now, I think it starts at midnight Eastern time. So like 3 a.m. here or something that's when the trial for Julian Assange starts to decide whether or not he's going to be extradited to the United States. I think it relates to the homelessness thing too, because this is a total attack on our press freedom that's meant to push all kinds of press, news, etc. further, especially critical left press, further to the outside, so that we can just be pushed out, exploited, unheard of.
And it also continues to just suppress our freedom of the press, because look what happens when you come out. They torture you, and they go on this huge witch hunt to try to just take you out. So it further it further suppresses more and more people of coming out with their stories or doing their leaks, because they fear that the same thing is going to happen to them, or like Chelsea Manning,
They
you get
make it
tortured
out.
for years.
They make it out to make them like bad people as well.
Exactly.
When they really aren't.
No, he's, if anything, a hero, and this is the press freedom case of the century, of our lifetimes for sure. And the grossest thing, and I'll touch on that before we read this tweet, if you could pull it up, is that whether or not he gets extradited, I mean, if he gets extradited, it sucks because federal jail, and then whether it be he'll be tortured or executed or held in jail for the rest of his life, or until he's not operable anymore. But even if he doesn't, if the extradition doesn't happen, he stays in England, he still stays in jail indefinitely. They can just hold him indefinitely in prison, where he can't see his wife or his kids. And he says it's so cold in his prison cell that he uses the books and letters that people send him to clog up the windows so that he can insulate enough heat in his prison cell.
Keep sending them.
Keep sending them.
Yeah, keep sending him.
But yeah, so I'll read from this tree here. This is from Kevin Gostola, who has been covering the Assange trial this whole time, and we've covered this before too, that a lot of people can't cover it, and a lot of big media companies, corporations, etc., outlets, even though they can cover it, they've chosen not to on purpose. I think this is good to preface this next video, though. Kevin Gostola, he says, the Julian Assange extradition ruling will be a publicized event that means many suddenly have an opinion. Most of those opinions will be misinformed and uninformed. Some may even be disinformed. Find few journalists who have covered proceedings at every stage and boost them. And like I said, he's one of those journalists. You can go back in some of our older episodes because we've covered this extensively, as well as covered other journalists that have covered this extensively. And yeah, I think as this trial goes on, you are going to see a bunch of smears from people like, I wouldn't be surprised if Matthew Iglesias, writer for, I think he writes for Vox now or something, but you're going to have plenty of people like that are going to be speaking for the mainstream on why, like Michael said, they're going to demonize Julian Assange. And people that don't know about this issue or, are just hearing about it somehow, they're going to, don't take these people's narrative. Like, actually look at the people who have been covering this shit since he's been in jail and since all the mainstream press has refused to cover it. Before we play the video, does anyone want to say anything else kind of on this?
Yeah, really quick, just that last part you said, and like a big part to understand, especially if you're new to the whole political machine, is they're not just not covering it because they don't think it's a good story. They're not covering it because they're told not to cover it. It's manufactured. They want to make sure that you don't know what's going on with this actually, and the only thing that you do know about it is Assange bad, this and that. Whatever they will tell you about, it's always going to be negative because they want to manufacture the idea in your head that he's a piece of shit, what he did was wrong, and nobody should do what he did. Let us keep our secrets. You'll never know about him. We might declassify some stuff, but we're going to whitewash the history of it. And by the time they declassify it, with the way the media works now, most people come, when they see this stuff, they don't care because, we were raised to think that these people are our enemy and etc. like that. So, yeah, I think that you can go to play the video now, but that was like, if you're getting into this stuff and you're new to this stuff, it's important to remember that there's a reason they don't talk about Julian Assange.
I think it shows the divide between corporate establishment media and new independent media, because it's like it's people like us who Julian Assange are the most important. It's because he's fighting for our freedoms to be able to report on stuff like this.
He's not fighting for CNN's ability to report because they don't actually do reporting. Yeah, like Ian said, it's all manufactured, all planned out, it's all part of just being part of the State Department, CIA, etc. They just peddle their narratives. Don't let anyone tell you that we or anyone that's small, that you're not a real journalist or something, like, or you don't have moral authority to speak or think about these too, because you have more than the capability and you have more than the moral spirit than any of these fucking main outlets, mainstream outlets.
At least you're not bought and sold.
You're not bought, exactly.
I'd say overwhelmingly likely the people watching this are not bought and sold. I hope so.
Where everything you watch on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, etc.
it's the opinions of millionaires who get paid by billionaires.
Yep. So yeah, let's play the video, and before you play it, just to tell people what it is, and this is just really funny that concerning the force of the vote issue, which we just talked about at the top of the show, people really blasted people arguing for that position, claiming that it's the same thing with the not real journalist claim, like, oh, you're not really activists, you don't know about this activist life. Meanwhile, the force the vote groups, they held, I think, their second or third rally within the last week, where they're actually going out and marching and they're calling on politicians and actually trying to do direct action and organizing. And I say that because that was part of this effort too, this rally to protest the extradition hearing of Julian Assange. And those two protests coincided and worked together. So it's same message. Don't let anyone tell you you're not an activist or not worthy of, being an activist or some shit. Yeah, let's play it. It's Max Blumenthal.
I don't remember there was a certificate or a degree you can get for activism.
Exactly. Yeah,
don't let people overtrain you, dude. If you do what you think is right, and stay devoted to the cause. Most of the people that are going to
even people who have like journalism degrees, it's just they're the ones
journalism
who end up getting
not a real
hired into
thing.
these positions.
Most of the people that are going to talk shit to you aren't going to care about whatever the fuck's going on in 2 years. While you're still devoted to the cause every single day. They're going to not care about it. They're going to move on to the next grift, or they're going to play with whatever team they think they're going to get power from.
I think they hire people with journalism degrees because they have the skills to talk about journalism. But that's why they hire them, because they have the skills. So then they give them garbage news to talk about all day because they can spin it as good journalism.
Well, people that have generally journalism degrees are already amongst the elite, so they're already comfy as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the speech here at the rally, it's from Max Blumenthal from Grey Zone. We've covered his stuff too. Check him out. He's a strong voice on Assange as well as anti-imperialism.
I know this city, I know the political atmosphere here, and what we have today with all of you out here in not the nicest weather, in the middle of a pandemic, to support someone who is not an American citizen, whose name has been completely maligned in our media, who has been smeared, who has been the target of every kind of possible denigration and smear. This is incredible that we mobilized this many people today, and this is just the beginning. And it's also a part of what took place earlier in DC with Force the Vote, to expose the hypocrisy in our political system, where self-styled socialists like AOC say that there are concerns around Julian Assange and will not challenge Nancy Pelosi, a straight-up warmonger. So this is just about people power. This is pure people power today, and these are incredible numbers considering the situation that we're in. I hadn't prepared any remarks. I wasn't really prepared to speak, but one of the things that upsets me the most today is that this is the anniversary of the state murder of Qasem Soleimani, someone who not only defended his country, but defended the Middle East against one of the most vicious, fascistic forces in the world and helped defeat ISIS. And he actually worked alongside the United States to defeat ISIS, and the United States murdered him. And what did they do a year ago after they murdered him, they assassinated him? Donald Trump deployed fake intelligence, falsely claiming that Qasem Soleimani was on his way to kill Americans and attack American embassies. In fact, he had been lured to Iraq with the false promise by the U.S. of negotiations, and he was on his way to a peace conference brokered by the Iraqi government. So Donald Trump went out and lied to the American public to assassinate the second most important public figure in Iran. This kind of lie is the kind of lie, these are the kind of lies that WikiLeaks and Julian Assange had been exposing for about a decade. And this is why Julian Assange is in jail. Julian Assange is in jail because of these words that he said, that if wars can be started with lies, wars can be stopped with the truth. And Julian Assange, with his model of publishing, with the courage of WikiLeaks, they brought us the truth that exposed the lies, not just behind the conventional wars that we've seen, but the hybrid wars, the vicious sanctions that are starving to death tens of thousands of Venezuelans and Iranians and Cubans, and are now targeting independent sovereign countries like Nicaragua, where WikiLeaks through the State Department cables showed how the U.S. was paying opposition parties to try to destroy the Sandinistas. We've learned so much from WikiLeaks, and it's for that reason that Julian Assange is in jail, and he's in jail to make an example of him. He's in jail the same way that Joan of Arc was burned at the cross to make an example so the rest of us don't go and do what he does. And because he's there, and I can tell you I was in touch with him for several weeks, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, over Signal about what was taking place. And he, at certain points, was hopeful that he would be taken out of the embassy in London. I remember one message he sent to some of his supporters, and it was a rainbow emoji. He was hopeful, and then his hopes were crushed by the British security state acting as the cat's paw of the CIA. But he had this hope, and when his hope was crushed, I thought the best thing I can do is just redouble our efforts at the Gray Zone to continue the work that he's doing and that WikiLeaks is doing. And all of you independent journalists are continuing that work today. You should give yourselves a hand. I know Julian would be so proud of you if he could see what you're doing, and I know he knows this is happening. I've been in touch with his legal team.
And
He's following all this closely.
There for now,
even though
and yeah, he goes on to talk about how both the CIA and I forget the Spanish company that they basically paid off to spy on his legal team while he was in the embassy, and spy on him in the embassy as well as do crazy stuff like lock him up in rooms and a long time where he couldn't shower, etc. in the embassy, all kinds of shit.
You said a Spanish news?
It's a Spanish intelligence
from. Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, group they were basically paid off by the CIA to hack the security cameras in the embassy and spy on his legal team.
Oh man, yeah. For a second I thought you said news. I was gonna say I think I might know the name, but
yeah, I can't.
It's like how they have to go a layer detached. Like they got to hire someone so they can't say it was directly in their name.
Well,
Exactly.
it's very
Or
reminiscent of the Iowa caucus stuff. I think the name almost is like Shadow.
It was Shadow Inc. or something.
Well, no, I'm saying this group is almost a similar name to Shadow.
Just the same obviously fucking sketchy name. Just the same okay.
Spy Corps Incorporated.
Yeah, just like
we
are United Spies
Venezuelan
or some shit.
Yeah.
They had to hire someone to go do the coup because it couldn't be in their name if it came back to them.
I mean, gotta be that way removed.
All the far right militias we funded all over the fucking world for the CIA. It's completely
Expected,
completely in pace.
But yeah, I just want to, and he said it in the end there, wanted to echo that, he said as soon as he knew Assange was locked up, he made efforts at the Gray Zone to double down on the kind of coverage he was doing. And I think that will be our goal too, is to put our head towards this and fight in that vein, because he's in jail trying to protect our ability to do this. So that's the least we can do.
Chad is saying we know what happens to him tomorrow. He's asking, he wants to know if tomorrow we'll know what happens.
With what?
Assange.
Won't know yet because, like I was saying, we don't have a live video feed, and I assume by next Wednesday we'll have another piece. But yeah, we're just gonna have to rely on these people that have been covering this whole time and have been astute in covering it. And we won't know if he's fucked by tomorrow. I'm sure they're gonna drag it out. And that's the real shame is
this stuff keeps getting delayed over and over and over.
Yeah, it's happened fucking just off the top of my head at least fucking 3 times.
Yeah, the beginning of the hearings to consider having these hearings we covered originally not that long ago when they put him in that glass box at the back of the courtroom, which is just hilarious. He can't even talk to his lawyers or anything.
I'm almost willing to take a bet that they might just stall indefinitely until the end of time, until he's dead.
Yeah,
I mean that's what it is. Even if they get the extradition, good, cool. We could torture him in the U.S. If not, we'll just leave him in Belmarsh prison for the rest of his life. It's fine with them either way.
Yeah, isn't it funny they can just keep delaying something like this, where it's one of the most important journalism cases in the world. But
I mean, that definitely probably plays a part in why it's getting delayed. Because say the U.S. wins, journalism is just taking the largest fucking knife in the fucking back.
I think they're there is a theory they're still delaying it because they're still trying to find something to throw at him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. They're trying to make sure that they can, and maybe there's tactical things here too. Like they don't want, not that there will be a massive backlash, honestly, if he gets extradited, but it will vindicate a lot of people that have been saying this whole time this is their plan to extradite him to the U.S. and torture him. So it's like maybe they don't want people to, they want it to be as low key as possible too.
Or they're waiting for people to stop paying attention.
Right. Yeah. Whatever our speculation is, the reality
all
is
of the
he's
above,
gonna
maybe.
wait there. Yeah. All of the above. Whatever happens, Julian's fucked, and I don't think anything's gonna change. But regardless of that, and we've talked about this before, when we're fucking down low, and it doesn't matter if we're gonna win. We gotta fight them because that's the right thing to do. We're gonna
Exactly.
keep reporting this shit.
Exactly. We're gonna always have updates on this shit, and no matter what, it's the moral thing to do, and it's it's what we have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll keep in touch on that, and then let's do our last piece for our break, and then we just have just a little bit after for you guys.
Yeah, and so this is just something for us to all kind of laugh at, make fun of, joke around about, because this show's been it's been kind of heavy.
It's been a bit of a depressing day.
Yeah, we have this NYT, New York Times New York Times piece. I don't know why I can't think. We have this New York Times
Klobuchar Times.
They almost sound like a sports team or something.
Saying NYT sounded weird, so like I didn't want to say it.
It almost sounds like TYT. Oh wait.
You know what T would do? So it's just titled "A Slap in the Face."
X-Files theme.
Yeah, the pandemic disrupts disrupts young oil careers. Students and recent graduates struggle to get hired as the oil industry cuts tens of thousands of jobs, some which may never come back. The first person you see is just this fucking little white girl. Probably hasn't had
professionally shot.
Yeah, never had a real job. Her mommy paid.
She had dreams of being an oil tycoon, but now they're crushed.
On the right there, you have the sole reason for the destruction and degradation of the planet.
Yep.
A good primary cause.
Look how they tried to make that picture like beautiful or something too.
It's just disgusting.
It's just fucking oil well, and there's like a solar flare in there and shit. Like what's going on?
Reading from the article here, Houston, Sabrina Burns, a senior at the University of Texas at Austin, had thought she would be launching a lucrative career in the oil and gas industry when she graduated in a few months. But the collapse in demand for oil and gas during the coronavirus pandemic has disrupted her well-laid plans and is forcing her to consider a new path. Aw, darn.
Better learn to code.
This global pandemic killing thousands of poor people. Oh, I want my fucking oil job. Man, damn, poor is always dying.
I feel bad for whatever representative got to her.
Yeah.
Probably offered her some probably like 6-figure salary or something.
It's a real shame she can't see out her lucrative career.
And we have a quote here from her.
Petroleum engineering.
We got a slap in the face in an entirely unforeseen situation that rocked our entire mindset, said Miss Burns, who is studying petroleum engineering. I have applied for every oil and gas position I've seen, like all my classmates. Nothing really has turned up. I'm discouraged from this oil job destroying our planet. Darn. With fewer people commuting and traveling, the oil and gas industry has taken a punishing blow, which means slightly less than the already insane profits that they've been making for decades. This just means very small, and it was also helped out by getting bailouts from the U.S. government instead of helping us with economic stimulus, giving working class people money so they can survive. Oil companies have laid off more than 100,000 workers unnecessarily. They just don't want to cut into their profit margin. Many businesses have closed refineries, and some have sought bankruptcy protection. The industry has attracted thousands of young people in recent years with the promise of secure careers as shale drilling took off and made the United States the world's largest producer of oil. But many students and recent graduates say that they're no longer sure that there's a place for them in the industry. Even after the pandemic ends, some of them still fear the growing concerns about climate change that will lead to the inevitable decline of oil and gas. Oh, whoopsie fuck! All this oil drilling we're doing is ruining the planet. We might not have a job, guys. This sucks.
Do they not include that in their degree plans?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
We're gonna destroy the planet. Darn.
Oh fuck! The planet's fucking blowing up. Shit. Maybe
Well,
I
that's why they don't.
Those damn
we've harped on it before.
externalities. They're always getting in the way.
They don't think of these things.
My
'cause
economic
we
calculations.
We push all these STEM majors. And
Exactly.
bullshit.
And this is what happens.
This is what happens. Exactly. You have people that there's no moral consideration or anything like that.
It's go get a STEM
Go
job.
get your bread. Yeah, get your money.
Go get money. Don't worry about what's right. Go get money. And then continuing on. These students are seeking elite positions in an oil and gas industry that employs about 2 million people. Even after recent layoffs, petroleum companies still employ more people than the fast-growing wind and solar businesses. Obviously, because there's been no shift by any major country to go to wind and solar. There's been no push in the markets for that as a solution to the climate crises that we are facing. Because everybody still exists under this global capitalist market that wants to do nothing more than create profit for them.
That's what makes it hilarious to feign like this is some issue though. Like, okay, you guys are literally, like you said, they're barely marginally making less profits than before. And
Exactly.
Still fucking the main like thing we produce here still of our hollowed out country.
Exactly.
And they're bitching about it.
And you have these dumb fucking, well-off kids that grow up with a silver spoon in their mouth that go to these nice colleges, all paid for by their mommy and daddy, and they want these crispy little fucking jobs,
lucrative jobs, 6 figures.
Where they want, they make a shit ton of money, and nothing happens except for the destruction of the planet. And let me just finish this paragraph and I'll continue on. Which have a combined workforce of at least 370,000 according to trade groups. Miss Burns, 22, fucking a year older than me, and she's looking for oil jobs, elite oil jobs, which is insane. Said her choice, which really speaks to the business.
No age.
It shows how much we've been slacking. I mean, shit, she's already about to enter the oil industry. I mean, fuck, what are we doing?
Not anymore. She's not.
Carlos, the issue is
when the oil peaks back.
Our parents and grandparents don't pull themselves up by their bootstraps and work hard like hers did. I guess they worked hard, being white people, and somehow they worked way harder than our grandparents and parents. So they just they get oil jobs and we don't. That's just it.
Or maybe they're a little more greedier than the rest of us.
No.
So you mean they worked harder?
Yeah. Miss Burns, 22, said her choices have narrowed considerably over the last 9 months. With opportunities in oil and gas limited, she's recently accepted an internship with an engineering consulting firm specializing in energy conservation, probably in oil and gas, which was also a dying market because she's a fucking dumbass. And she may eventually apply to graduate school in environmental science. Probably going to go on to be somebody who is a climate change denier who gets paid by various political action committees and other grift outlets to say climate change isn't a big deal. I have this environmental science degree. Listen to me, I'm smart. She is also considering moving in with her sister after graduation to save money. Oh man, moving into her sister's probably very nice home. Sucks. I feel like companies are going to be pretty cautious about coming out of this, about taking new hires, she said. Miss Burns was enticed in an oil and gas career by stories her father, a helicopter pilot, told her about the successful female engineers he had met servicing offshore rigs in the Gulf of Mexico. I wonder why we were in the Gulf of Mexico.
What was he doing out there?
Yeah, I wonder what they were doing in the Gulf of Mexico.
Wait, what was that thing that happened in the Gulf of Mexico? The big giant oil spill?
Oh, yeah, that is...
I wonder what was happening there. Now, I'm not going to say what I was going to say. Even before the pandemic, Ms. Burns said she had some doubts about, she had doubts about her chosen industry. Other students and even an Uber driver ferrying her and others to a petroleum industry banquet in 2018 raised questions about the future of oil and gas and why renewable energy might, the New York Times, the Marxist, liberal, radical socialist outlet says, might be a better bet than oil and gas. Might. Super important. That's like, I really want to hammer that on, that the New York Times just said might.
Might be a better investment for your capital, is what they mean.
Yeah. Yeah, keep that in mind.
Not better for the planet. They'll figure out a way to make renewable energy horrible and destroy the planet too. If we
Also, look how they describe the fucking Uber driver, like a normal fucking, hardworking Americans that, they give them fairy words and say, an Uber driver ferried her to this petroleum industry banquet. It's like, that's a hardworking ass like Uber driver who probably, deals with dumbasses all day.
There's a giant oar that he's sails her to the
fucking shooting flying whales, toxic wasteland. Yeah. And that, that's pretty much all I wanted to bring up for this article. It's just a weird fucking pro-oil puff piece from the New York Times. Not weird. It's right in line with their normal agenda, but
weird in the what should be reality.
Yeah, in the I guess the political atmosphere that we exist under. That it's weird that they're doing this weird like puff piece talking about the oil jobs are being affected by coronavirus, when in reality it's just people are getting laid off from the oil. Oil markets, especially because the owners don't want to just pay them and take out of their profit. They want to, fire, apply for bankruptcies in these smaller plants, lay hundreds of thousands of people off just because it hurts their profits. Know that, they could sustainably pay their employees and take on new hires for who knows how long and still be above water. But they don't do that because they want to maximize the amount of money they make. Despite the effects on local populations, obviously the planet, and other things like that.
I just have a interesting idea I might do for the stream, not to off track you too much, but since all these pages seem to want to have so many built-in integrated ads from the website, maybe I should start turning these into some ads for our podcast.
Wait, that might be fucking legit. Just the whole.
See, I'm using New York Times got me using my capitalist mindset here.
Yeah.
In case you had any allusions to who funds the New York Times, well, look who they're protecting.
Yep.
So there you go. And look who they're not talking about.
Look who they're writing puff pieces for. Look who they're not talking about in Julian Assange. Look what issues they're not talking about, like
checks, unemployment, floor vote.
Getting a floor vote on Medicare for all or Medicare for all in general. And sometimes when they do talk about it, they attack it completely. Really, you can tell from what they write who they support. They don't have. You can call them a centrist outlet all you want, blah 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 blah. But
proves everyone's got a bias.
At the end of the day, everybody has a bias. It's
even on just what you report and what you cover.
We are, our bias. We are very left. Not even, I guess you don't want to say very left, but we're moderate. We're leftists. We care, but we're socialists. We want to make sure everybody has, access to a fucking decent fucking life. That's it. Everybody's a hard worker in their own facet, and because of the constraints that are capitalism, a lot of people will never be able to tap into what their talent is. Because they have to go work this shitty fucking job that they hate. They don't have time to focus on something that they truly are passionate about. And that is literally a result of capitalism. And I'm not some weird anti-work communist or anything.
No, but that's
I think a lot of people would.
Though.
Yeah, that's
destruction of like talent in a capitalist society.
Yeah, we could talk about that for fucking ever, dude.
Yeah, like people would get so much more enjoyment out of like doing things to actually improve their communities, like if they were compensated properly for it. But instead, we let a lot of our communities just fall apart because no one can really make money off of that.
Exactly.
It gets like dwindled out of city budgets for other more quote unquote important matters.
It's like our city, instead of protecting our rights as workers and just our rights as humans on this planet to live a decent life, we continue to hollow out our working force and not protect our undocumented brothers and sisters, but we increase our police budget to and increase things like our gang prevention, which is fucking ridiculous. We waste
Amazon fulfillment center.
Yeah, we waste money here in Oxnard on gang prevention. Just shitting on our black and brown brothers and sisters in this community. we waste our money on that, but we won't waste our money, or we won't. It's not a waste, when it's helping Americans, or not even not
correctly spend
when it's helping people of this country.
Or like, remember when we covered the nuclear power plants last episode? Like, we're just letting all this infrastructure fall apart, and even when it's in its most crucial and necessary form, that it cannot fail, or else it will literally create a climate disaster. But we're just letting it fall apart. Because who's gonna make a whole lot of extra money off of repairing those nuclear power plants? And in fact, it's the profit motive that's driving them to let those plants stay open for 100 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Risking, yeah.
Yeah, it's not profitable to repair them, disable them, or anything like that. It's profitable to run them into the ground and let a disaster happen.
I think on that we go into our last. Yeah. We're gonna go into our last break. One more song, and then we just have a short something to touch on, and then we'll do a little outro and let you guys go. So yeah, we'll be back after this song. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll be right back.
Thank you to everyone.
And Spoop.
We're back.
We're back, team.
Spoopy.
So yeah, really quick. This has been a long one, or not a long one, but it's been a I guess a dark one. And
Just the day, the mood.
Yeah, I just want to thank all you guys for coming out. We're coming up on over a year. We're coming up on a year plus in the pandemic, in the quarantine, and it gets really rough some days. And I just want to thank everybody for coming here and hanging out with us. And hopefully, even though we're talking about dark stuff, we hope you see the light in that. We're here and we want you as well to fight every day for a better life for your brothers and sisters, even if you don't know them, across the country, down the street, across the planet, across the pond, whatever. We're fighting each and every day, to bring awareness for each and every one of us, to live a better life, to live a decent life, to not be exploited constantly by our bosses, to be extorted by the police, to be used by the state in prisons for slave labor, et cetera, day in and day out. And we, it's super important that as grim as things may seem, that we always continue the fight, because it's the right thing to do, and because it's what we should do as humans. We gotta look out for other humans. We work better and stronger, faster together than rather if we were working as individuals. We can get more done if we're united, and if we're all one people. And
And we're not constantly trying to undermine each other.
Exactly. I want to thank you guys for coming in here, and being part of this community. Biohazzy, I'm glad you found that stream too, brother. And I hope you, or sister, NB, whatever you want,
Yeah.
whatever you prefer. But yeah, we really appreciate you coming in here, and we hope to see you again. We're here every single Wednesday and Sunday, to 10:30 p.m. Post Pacific Standard Time here in California. We live in Oxnard. And I'll go ahead and put our socials in chat if you want to follow us on all those so you never miss an update. We update on Twitter and Instagram every single time. And if you're interested in what we've talked about before, the YouTube has the entire archive, everything we've ever put out as the Spoop Podcast is on the YouTube. We really appreciate you coming out. We appreciate every single person, even if you're watching without an account or you're just lurking. We appreciate you because a lot of you guys, the lurkers, you guys show up consistently, and you guys are here and attentive, and we appreciate that. And never be afraid to talk to us in chat. We're always here, even if we don't say anything verbally. We'll type back to you.
That's like the best part. It's like we're doing a class, and we get to have as many students as possible. There's no limit. Anyone can sign up. It's free. You don't gotta pay.
Having you guys here and knowing that you guys are doing well is what we really care for the most, and we really appreciate it. And that's what's most important is just your viewership.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys on a. It's super, like I guess corny to say every single fucking everybody with any sort of group of supporters, a community, they're always gonna be like, oh, we're nothing without you. And like we'd still be doing this. We said it last time. We'd still be doing this, just nobody would hear us. And we're glad that we're slowly and steadily cultivating this community. And we hope you guys stay to be a part of it, because we really appreciate you guys.
Also, a little fun thing you can do with the YouTube, because it's got all our stuff archived, and the way I formatted all with the description, it's got like all the titles of pretty much everything we have and everything we discuss. So you can go onto our channel and you can search on the channel specifically on YouTube. So anything that you're kind of interested about in politics, we may have talked about it already, but it just might be hard to find, or you don't know about it, because I'll be honest, we do a lot of content on here, and so it's not really convenient for us to upload everything on like an individual segment basis. I was thinking of maybe doing something like that, like maybe trying to upload like highlights, like maybe 1 or 2 segments from our videos or something. Yeah. Because I think maybe it might be more easier for people to watch stuff like that instead of seeing like a fat like hour and a half, 2 hour, sometimes almost 3 hour podcast. And like, even if we do try to format it right, it's like it can be like, I know it's not always appealing for people, so
just making it more digestible for people.
But yeah,
and having that search bar, like you just mentioned, is really important.
Yeah, you can search on our channel tags, for anything we've done.
Having all of our description
anything, because everything is in the description. So if there's like a certain topic that we've probably covered and you're interested in it,
you can just
as long as it's tagged in the description, you can just search for it. It's right there.
Exactly. But yeah,
the video should pop up.
But yeah, we're trying to make it as easy as possible to learn about this stuff for you guys. Because we appreciate you. And Jacan, you can go ahead and talk about what we're gonna finish off.
Yeah. Before I start, I would echo that too. Yeah, you guys just motivate us even when we're low. Sometimes the subject matter of the day can start us pretty low, but by the end of the stream, thanks to you guys, the motivation that gives us, it really helps.
Definitely.
And what Ian said about the, all this dark information too, like, yeah, don't let it bog you down and like cause you to, shy away or into inaction or something. Like, let it situate you to what the reality is so that we can act and can organize.
And we'll have a better foundation for when we do act, and we know what we're fighting for.
Yeah. Let the knowledge temper you. Like, that's the whole point.
You should really look at Sankara.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just one, like, he saw everything going on in his country, and instead of just either accepting it and moving on, or being ignorant to it and trying to just ignore it and go on, he was tempered by it, and he went as far as to do everything he did, all the amazing things he did.
Yeah, plant millions of trees in an aridified country, like all kinds of stuff you think would be impossible.
Break the social gender norms and bring women into society. Yeah, Sankara is a amazing Thomas Sankara. He's an amazing figure. You should really look into him if you haven't already. He's personally a big inspiration.
Yeah, we have stuff on him too, but
and
I think we'll want to do more stuff too.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do a little leak. We don't know a definitive date, but we want to do an Africa special.
Yeah.
Where we really go into African history, African political history, especially from a left socialist perspective. That's something we have in the works, and we'll be sure to bring that to you guys.
Yeah. Does anyone have anything else before we jump into this video?
Yeah, we'll get up into this, and then whenever you're done with that, I'll do my little outro spiel, and we can get out of you guys to say.
So, this is and I feel like I keep bringing this back because Aaron Matei does great work at Pushback for Gray Zone. So I keep bringing him back all the time because his information is so relevant. But this is something that he's been covering for a long time and something we haven't covered yet. Although I do believe we've talked about Syria before. And this is about, if you remember, the gas attacks in Syria that were used as a justification for us to go and bomb them during the Trump administration. There was a watchdog, basically, the OPCW, that confirmed the gas attacks. But Aaron Matei's reporting has basically shown that within the hierarchy of the OPCW, that group, they basically forced the on-ground reporters to lie about the actual situation and fabricate a gassing, etc., on people that didn't actually happen. And I would recommend looking at other stuff on this, and maybe we can cover this story more because there's a lot of background on it I haven't touched on. But we can play this video because it's not only does it give background to that, but it's just so funny, the blatant hypocrisy of the blatant lying, rather, of the chief of the OPCW, that hierarchy I was talking about that forced the lower members to lie. He just sits here and lies to everyone's face about doing that, basically.
Here, before we start the video, I want to make a quick prediction. I haven't seen this, but I have seen a few older clips of when they were doing the discussions. And as soon as the people who were part of the original report were coming forward and they were trying to have their case presented and heard out and everything, they were immediately smeared by the more Western allied side as, just Russian puppets. Oh, you're just trying to push Assad's narrative to make him look good and act like he didn't do anything wrong. But that's what they were immediately saying. I heard that come out of their mouths, and I'm like, hold on. You're supposed to be a watchdog.
And the group that came after them, though, is I think the group that came after them, if I can remember right, was Bellingcat, which is a straight up U.S. state-funded outlet, basically. So there you go.
Where their whole point is that they're supposed to find out what happened. They're not supposed to be partisan.
Yeah, no.
But they are the ones immediately saying the smears just out loud. I didn't think they'd actually say smears like that live on recording. That's just
nuts. They will. It's the State Department straight up destroying
It's like
any ability
Pompeo,
to
yeah.
the truth. Yeah.
All right, yeah. So I'll just.
Yeah. Let's play the video.
Yeah, I won't drag it out anymore.
Welcome to Pushback. I'm Aaron Mate. Wanted to give you an update on what's been happening recently with the OPCW's Syria cover-up scandal. As you know, probably we've covered this exhaustively at the Gray Zone. I think it's one of the most important stories in the world. It gets almost no attention in the Western media. I think that's a scandal in itself, as I've said many times. And we're going to continue to cover it. And we're going to continue to try to break the sound barrier around it. And so there are new developments to report. Let me just recap the story quickly for anybody who might not be aware of it. In April 2018, Syria was accused of committing a chemical weapons attack in the town of Douma. A week later, the US, Britain, and France bombed Syria in purported retaliation. About a year after that, in March 2019, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, the OPCW, put out a report that seemed to support the official U.S. line that the Syrian government was guilty of a chlorine weapons attack. But then a series of leaks began to emerge from inside the OPCW, showing that the OPCW inspectors on the ground had reached a far different conclusion than what their superiors said publicly and put out in their final report. And the evidence that the inspectors collected on the ground in Douma did not support the narrative that the Syrian government was guilty of a chemical weapons attack. And in fact, some evidence pointed to this being staged on the ground by the militants who controlled Douma at the time, a extremist militia named Jaish al-Islam, which would make sense because from a point of view of rationality, it made no sense for Syria to commit a chemical weapons attack knowing that that would invite a U.S. military strike, as Trump had done a year prior over another allegation of chemical weapons in Khan Sheikhoun. While meanwhile, it made perfect sense for a militia trying to stave off the Syrian government retaking its territory, it made perfect sense for them to try to trigger some kind of intervention in a desperate bid to try to weaken the Syrian government, because that really was the opposition's only hope at that point. Unfortunately, a lot of Western media has completely ignored the story. There are, of course, some brave exceptions, like the late Robert Fisk, who got on the ground in Douma and actually found early evidence that a scene at a hospital was staged to falsely make it appear as if there was a chemical weapons attack. And Fisk, of course, was subsequently vindicated by these OPCW leaks. So although there hasn't been very much media attention, we've continued to report it at the Gray Zone. And meanwhile, there has been this attempt to litigate it or to raise the issue at the diplomatic level at the United Nations. So there have been a series of meetings where Russia and China have tried to put this on the agenda. One of the dissenting inspectors, Eian Henderson, has spoken at the United Nations. I've spoken at the UN as well as Ted Postel, the eminent MIT professor, physicist, and Jose Bustani, the former OPCW Director General, who actually worked with the two dissenting inspectors. He was going to deliver remarks to the UN Security Council, but you might remember just a few months ago, the US and its allies voted to block him from speaking. They barred Jose Bustani from addressing the UN. So then some recent public attacks have happened against the whistleblowers. Some anonymous sources have laundered false or deceptive claims against the whistleblowers via Bellingcat and the BBC, which I've written about at the Gray Zone, and I'll link to it below. But most recently, there was an extraordinary follow-up session at the UN Security Council, where again, this was on the agenda. And the guest of this session was none other than the OPCW Director General, Fernando Arias. And for the first time, Fernando Arias was asked direct questions about the OPCW scandal. And for the first time, Arias was given an opportunity to provide answers. Because so far, in the absence of aggressive media reporting, and the OPCW actually shunning media requests. So when I write them, they don't respond to me. And I think many journalists have had the same experience. This was an opportunity for some answers. Now, did we get answers? No, we didn't, because the questions were posed, and as we'll see, Reyes did not want to respond to them publicly, and that's exactly what happened. He moved the session to closed doors. So we're going to go through the questions that Reyes was posed because I think they're important, and then we'll talk more about how the story has been playing out, including the deceptive attempts to discredit the whistleblowers by Bellingcat and the BBC. So let's go to the first question, and it is posed by the Russian permanent representative to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia. I apologize to Russian speakers if I butchered that. And the ambassador first asked a very simple question to Reyes. He asked him whether or not he will agree to meet with the dissenting inspectors who protested the censorship of their investigation, who pointed to key facts that were removed or distorted, and who have asked for a chance to meet with Reyes and to present the data and the information that was suppressed in a transparent scientific setting. Sounds like a very simple demand, but so far, Reyes has refused it, and none of the states that bombed Syria have supported it. In fact, they've viciously attacked the whistleblowers, and they've accused them of being pawns of Russia and Syria and all that, but without even agreeing to this very simple task of, will you meet with them and hear their concerns? So this is the Russian ambassador asking Reyes if he will meet with the inspectors.
Fourth, the Duma report. The controversy surrounding the OPCW Duma investigation and report has been widely publicized, with some of the investigators claiming there was irregular and scientifically fraudulent behavior in the process, involving suppression and manipulation of inter alia, chemistry, and toxicology evidence, as well as a failed attempt to publish a doctored version of the team's original report. You have said all views were taken into consideration, yet the inspectors say otherwise. Many believe, including the OPCW First Director General José Bustani, that an open and free discussion between management and all the investigators would surely help the organization resolve this controversy. And after all, the CWC provides for inspectors to attach their differing observations.
So what Nebenzia is saying there is simply, will you meet with the inspectors? And he points out that under the Chemical Weapons Convention, inspectors who take part in investigations, as these inspectors did, have the right to attach their differing observations and conclusions to OPCW reports if they don't agree with the findings. That certainly was the case here, that the team that conducted the investigation in Duma did not agree with the final report in their name. But of course, their conclusions, their facts were suppressed and censored. So that is a basic question, is will you meet with them and let them air their concerns? Now we go on to the second question from the Russian ambassador to OPCW Director General Reyes. And he brings up this pivotal incident where in June 2018, after the Duma team had returned from Syria, they had written their report. It had been peer reviewed by other members of the team. The chief author of the report was Dr. Brendan Whelan, who was at the time considered the OPCW's top expert in chemical weapons chemistry. He also was the scientific coordinator of the entire Duma mission. And it was later revealed that he was one of the inspectors who challenged the censorship, because he was the first to discover that the report that he had overseen and authored and had submitted, he discovered at the last minute, really, that it had been doctored and that unknown people above him had rewritten his own report and added all these unsupported conclusions that falsely suggested that the team had evidence of a chemical weapons attack when, as Whelan pointed out in a letter, they had no such evidence. And so here, the Russian ambassador asked Reyes about that, and he also asked him about a recent report in the Gray Zone where we showed new leaks from inside the OPCW, which showed that after Whelan protested the censorship of his initial report, a OPCW official, Bob Fairweather, who was the chief of cabinet, who was basically a top aide to the director general at the time, who was Reyes's predecessor, he responded by acknowledging that the censorship had taken place, But all he said was that it was not done at the behest of the Director General, which is a very curious response. He's not challenging Whelan's allegation that his own report has been censored. He's just saying that it was not done at the behest of the Director General. So yes, there was censorship, but we didn't do it. It wasn't on our behalf. So this is the Russian ambassador asking Reyes about that.
Fifth, the Duma report. It is now well established via leaked documents and testimony from former OPCW inspectors that the original interim report was heavily redacted, and there was a failed attempt to publish this redacted version without the knowledge of the Duma FFM team, which also had unsupported conclusions inserted. This has been widely reported, and as far as we know, you have not denied it publicly. This incident amounts to a major act of deception within the OPCW and was, as you are aware, the cause of the original dissent within the FFM. In an email recently published by the news outlet Grey Zone, it is claimed by the former Chief of Cabinet that the redaction was not done at the behest of your office. Has an investigation ever been conducted to determine at whose behest it was done? And if so, what was the outcome and what actions were taken?
So what he's asking there is very simple. There was a report by the Duma team. It was censored and doctored and unsupported conclusions, falsely suggesting that a chemical weapons attack had occurred, were added. And he's saying, has there been an investigation into who did that? Who doctored the original report of the Duma team and who tried to insert all of these claims that had no scientific basis? And that's another very important question that is called into sharper relief even by these latest leaks that we published at the Grey Zone, which shows that an OPCW official, Bob Fairweather, acknowledged the censorship, but just said it was not done at the OPCW Director General's behest. Moving on to the next question. The Russian ambassador points out that there has been this claim by the OPCW that the reason why Brendan Whelan, who authored that initial report and then authored that email of protest challenging the censorship of that report, the OPCW has claimed about Whelan that he left the OPCW in September 2018. And the OPCW's final report was put out in March 2019. So the argument there is that the reason why Whelan is not credible here is because so much work was conducted after Whelan left the organization. Now, there's a problem with that. First of all, it's not true. If you look at the final report, you'll see that the vast majority of all the key areas of work were conducted by the time Whelan wrote his first report. And then you have the question that touches on what was raised in the earlier questions, which is that if you have this initial allegation of scientific fraud by Whelan with that first report, and if that fraud is never investigated and it's never addressed, then the fact that more work happens after that does not disprove the allegations of fraud. It only raises the questions that more fraud occurred to cover up the initial fraud. And that's, I believe, exactly what happened. So
can we pause
this is
there, Carlos?
at the heart.
And actually, we don't have to watch this last question, but if you could skip to 2146, we can see his response here. I just wanted to get out all these, the premise for some of these questions, just to show all the different ways that they've tried to censor the true story here.
Tasked with responding to. No, he doesn't. His only response is to complain that these questions were posed and to request that he answer them in private.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I understood that this first part of the session was an open session only for statements, and the questions and answers would be under protected mode. Has it changed like that?
Mr. Arias, the council members have the right to address the council in the manner that they choose. We'll come back to the closed session.
So that's it. That's the answer we got from OPCW Director General Fernando Arias to the multiple questions he received from Russia about the...
Pause it again there. So yeah, you hear him just get completely hammered on an enumeration of charges of how they've managed to cover this up and just outright lie. And just like how Carlos said, the smearing was just blatant from these quote watchdogs. Here it's blatant, just the corruption. He's just like, I'm not going to answer any of the questions. Let's settle this out in private because I know that's an ability I have. And we all know that in private, he's either going to further vindicate, what these questions are posing, or he's just going to keep flopping and not answer. So same product either way.
Well, I remember it wasn't...
We'll keep interfering in Syria.
He's not the one who made those remarks, the Fernando Arias. It was
right.
It was someone else from... Yeah, it was from one of the other, country delegations. I can't remember who exactly, but... Yeah, so it just shows that the mentality of these people, man.
Yeah, it's the same mentality. They don't care at all. They've done their mission. They're gonna go. They'll go to the irons with it as long as they can.
Well,
go.
It shows that it's like, I'm sorry. The point I was kind of making is that they're just being openly hostile and just blatantly shitting on them for just raising questions.
Yeah.
About the investigation.
Because
reasonable questions.
Because let's be real. Let's be real about what those questions raise. Raising those questions questions the United States and the world military that we've fucking put on Syria, help destroy their country, help propagate ISIS, and let it continue on.
It's like if
so
it was any other
questioning.
If it was any country, it was likely if it was any country other than Syria, not one of Russia's top allies, this probably wouldn't have happened. Yeah. But yeah, pretty much to them, it's like, you're gonna say this about us. Oh, okay.
You're gonna question the actions of the world police, so they can't do that. That's why, like you said, they're coming out so hard in the paint. They're so vociferous. Whatever the means is, whether they're just lying.
That's the ironic part is that they're not the ones being unreasonable. They're just asking simple questions.
Yeah.
And just getting nonsense in response. Yeah.
That's their job too, and there's complete wrench thrown in it. And it's just like all things that the UN in general, we've talked about this before too, that the US doesn't care. They're going to do whatever they want because whatever conversation we're going to have, they're just going to throw groups in like this or other agents that they have to push their world military supremacy.
And you'll never hear how many of them were bought off. Even though they're the first ones to accuse someone of being compromised by another.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I, hand this off and you guys' final thoughts and all that, just to tie it into this, and also to maybe that Africa piece that we have here in the back. 2 days ago was the anniversary of the Haitian Revolution, and maybe you don't think it's something significant or you don't know much about it. Either way, if you can, we don't have to cover it here, but if we do something with Africa, covering Haiti could be such an integral part because France, one of the worst colonizers in Africa, and of course Haiti was the most profitable colony for France until it was no longer their colony and they fought for a revolution. So I just wanted to say that because we missed it. It was 2 days ago, the start of the new year. Solidarity to all revolutions, all working people and people that have been trampled on and pushed down below. Solidarity to them, and
let's just keep let their voices be heard.
Yeah, let's just keep the Haitian Revolution in mind and what that was, and some of the figures. Toussaint L'Ouverture you could look up. Makan Dal is a very famous story where he was a slave in Haiti that lost his arm due to an accident, or maybe he was punished because there in Haiti they had an abundance of slaves, so they didn't really care, and he left and basically started a slave revolt that later germinated into the revolution itself. And not much is known about that guy, but there's so many heroes from the Haitian Revolution that we could think about and integrate into our moment now. But yeah, that was all I had to say.
Yeah, that was very well said.
Well, what do you guys want to get on out of here?
Yeah, I think
we're
that's
at
it.
2 hours into the stream.
Yeah, just over 2 hours.
Not bad.
12:30, and there's 10 of you guys, so that's super awesome. We really appreciate each and every one of you. Returning faces I see in the chat, and new faces I see in the chat. This was number 27 of the Spoop Podcast, the SPOOPCAST. You can watch all the old episodes on our YouTube, keep up to date with our new episodes on our Twitter and Instagram, as well as following us here on Twitch. Even if you don't have an account, you can create one really quick, really easy. Twitch makes it super easy for you. Then you just follow us, and there's a little bell you can turn on notifications so you never miss episode of our live episode. Everything was always going to be on the YouTube the very next day. So Wednesday shows are on Thursday, Sunday shows are on Monday for the YouTube. We really appreciate each and every one of you. If you're new, please drop a follow, and now would be the time to do it so we can shout you out before we get out of here. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can link it to your Twitch and give us your free Prime sub. It costs you literally no extra money, and it only helps us in the statistics and analytics of Twitch, getting us high on the leaderboards and making us look like a better stream. So we can hopefully continue to grow this community. We really appreciate each and every one of you, and we're going to go ahead and get out of your hair now. Thank you guys so much. We'll be back on Sunday at 10:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here in California. Thank you guys so much, and something I say at the end of every show, and I make sure that I say it. I'm adamant about it. Workers of the world unite, and it's very important that we have these ideas and how we want to change the world. And it's important that we organize locally as much as possible and really start building that human connection with people all around you in your community, and creating a solidarity with the workers of your community, and hopefully change it for the better through local measures, which are much more impactful on how your like everyday life will go than say something that happens over Washington D.C. So yeah, super important.
Yeah,
And,
I live with two high risk people, so I gotta really watch who I'm around. So you guys gotta try to organize and do what you can in person. I know I need to try to reach out to people more often, but so I'm gonna do what I can. But yeah, we all gotta do what's best.
We all gotta be
for
a
each
part of
other.
the fight, because we're all one people. We're all a team. So yeah, but yeah, thank you guys so much for coming in and tuning in to episode 27, the first podcast of the new year. It is the first one of 2021, and we really hope this is going to be a good year. We're as hopeful as we can be, and we're going to be here to cover every highlight and every low light of 2021 here. Here's the Spoop Podcast here on Twitch every Wednesday and Sunday. And before most big outlets get the stories, we're quick on a lot of this stuff. So yeah, we hope we can be a part of your daily news. So yeah, thank you guys so much again, and we're gonna go ahead and get out of your hair now. And thank you guys so much for watching again, and we'll be back on Sunday.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, later, guys.